The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Rick, and I'm here to take you through the using SLA agreement. I'm going to start a little bit about the theoretical side of it, and then I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Yuxing. We have a quick look at the agenda, so what we're going to cover. Some of what are SLAs, what are the benefits of this, what does these things mean, SLA, OLA, UCs, how do you start creating an SLA? I'm going to show you some things to think about when you look at the KPIs in service level management, and then we're handing over to Yuxing to show you how you do this within ServiceWise. So with no further ado, the official definition of an SLA, if you look at from an ITIL point of view, is a service level agreement. It's a formal document outlining the service commitment provided by an IT service provider to one or more customers, which kind of tells you what the scope of it is. But when you look at SLM within ITIL, it says plan, coordinate, negotiate, report, and manage the quality of IT services at an acceptable cost, which is essentially what we're talking about. It's the reasonableness of the cost involved as well. Additionally, SLA should have an improvement element to it, which you should manage through your continual service improvement programs. SLAs are essentially legal contracts that set the framework for your IT service and enable operational flexibility between the parties included in it. And this will allow SLAs to be updated and changed based on your business conditions and how your relationships develop within your organization. So normally it would be written in a day-to-day aspect of service delivery. And in this, you would also expect it to be transparent to your employees, which are the key stakeholders in your SLA. So if we look into a little bit on the benefits of service level management, essentially, like I said before, it's ensuring the quality of the services provided at a cost that's acceptable to your business and your customers. And if you look at it in its purest form, it's a constant cycle of agreeing, monitoring, reviewing, and reevaluating the levels of service that you provide so they meet your business objectives. So essentially, if you want to improve you and your department's image, IT can leverage this opportunity to set realistic user experiences, which normally leads to higher user satisfaction and a higher team morale within the team. Internally, SLAs dictate what's important to you and your IT team, and they offer quite a clear indicator on how the technicians should spend their time and how their performance should be judged. Transparent performance metrics along with the appropriate incentives will motivate your IT teams to achieve high service levels. Simply put, clear goals and incentives lead to better performance when it comes to SLAs. For external providers, there's also an added benefit of that you demonstrate your services provided, and therefore they kind of act as a high-quality proof of what you do. And you can use your historical SLA levels as a marketing tool when you go out and then solicit for business as an apple-for-apple comparison on this. A comprehensive SLA should address the following questions, like what is it you promise to deliver, and how will you deliver on these promises, and how do you measure the delivery and how, and what happens if you fail to deliver as promised. You also then need to take into account how it's going to change over time and so on. And remember, SLA clock starts when the service goes down, not when a ticket is logged and so on. Sorry, the screen is a little bit slow changing here. So SLAs, OLAs, and underpinning contracts, it's essentially, I mean, the SLA is for customers of your IT services. The OLAs and the operational level agreements and the underpinning contract is really your guarantee with your suppliers. So, and the important bit here is also that you need to report on the services offered and fix unacceptable levels of service. And we'll look a little bit about that on the KPI side, where you what you should measure and so on in this. Here's a little picture where you look at SLA, OLAs, and UCs on a business service like emails, and you can see on the screen how it transpires through the actual user down to service desk and incident management, and then through your IT group and potentially change management, and it might even work its way all the way down to your outside vendor, and then it works its way up through the cycle again. So how do you create an SLA? I mean, for those of you that are familiar with Deming, it's simply the way it's done is through a plan, do, check, act cycle. So if we look at the building blocks of your SLA, is really, number one, to assess the current situation and your service level that you're providing. So you investigate where you are, what you have achieved up to date, and importantly, where the business wants to be with us, and preferably tomorrow, not just today. And then you create a realistic plan describing the level of service that would be provided based on the feedback from the business and your customers. And the second step in all of this would be to define the service level. So you need to make sure that you include all the relevant information like purpose and scope, what to include, exclude, dependent business processes, impact of loss of service, etc. After that, you look at recording the terms of the agreement. So you outline the roles, the responsibilities for both the customer and you as a service provider, including definitions of the terms in your contract, the like durations, locations, service times, and so on. For example, I mean, you look at duties of a service provider, duties of the customer, responsibility of service users. So if you look at how that relays into, for instance, IT security, and what aspects of that needs to be looked at from an IT security policy and so on. And don't forget the exceptions to service times, such as weekends, public holidays, regular maintenance, and so on. The fourth level here is you identify the performance levels. So you set out the minimum and an expected performance level for your service, as well as conditions under when the service is considered to be unavailable or limited. For example, the expected and minimum service level might be 95% and 85% on a schedule. And the key here is the expected level is what the customer is actually paying for. When you look at the minimum level, that's what the customer would consider poor, so the borderline on unacceptable service. And some of the things you can look at on your nines here. So 99.9 would equal roughly like 8 hours when you look at this, and 99.99 would be 53 minutes and so on. There is pretty good tools out there to assess these things. Number 5, you outline your escalation procedures. So define the steps that are to be taken when a service level doesn't meet the expected and agreed standard. That may involve determining the fault of the measures, the reporting, the problem resolution within a specific time, and Also, what happens when and if the problem isn't resolved within that specified time. So when do you involve senior management from both the customer side and the service provider side, and so on and so forth. On next level, you define your metrics. So you look at the service metrics and track them over time. Items to include are conditions when a service is, for instance, considered to be unavailable, limited, when there is availability targets, reliability targets, time to restore the service, maintenance downtime, and so on. I mean, some of the common things are mean time between failures, mean time between service incidents, mean time to restore service, and turnaround time, uptime, and so on. There is no end to what you can select. It just depends what works for you and your business.
Rick,
at the end of it,
if I could interrupt you, I'm not sure if your slides are advancing at the moment.
It should be a big circle.
Okay. We've had some questions from people, but this is great. Okay. Continue on.
Okay, no worries.
Apologize.
I'll take it from there. If you're an external IT provider, you also need to state the fees and the conditions that may apply under circumstances when you don't meet your levels of service and so on. The clearer the conditions are stated, the higher the likelihood that there isn't a disagreement, which kind of in the end leads to higher customer satisfaction and prompt payment and so on. You also look at the other side of things, which is penalties and rules when the service isn't up to what you promised it. So there could be financial credits, root cause analyses, corrective action plans, and so on. In a normal world, all of the penalties are a percentage of the monthly recurring fees scaled up with the severity of your problem. And they are often capped at between 50 and 100% of the monthly fees, depending on what your agreement is and what the service is. They can also be cumulative across several SLAs. So it all depends how you provide your service. And there can also be things like contract termination that triggers in the event of extreme failures and so on. Don't forget, the one thing that is really important, don't forget to set in your exclusions. So you need in detail to provide a list of exclusions which is overall exempt against the SLA measurement. So some common exclusions are scheduled and emergency maintenance that may involve anything from upgrading to rebooting to backing up and so on. But they need to be in your SLA in order to make sense to the customer. There may also be exclusions for failure of a third party if it's outside of your control. Certainly the bare minimum you must have in there is the emergency maintenance and how you deal with that. And there is also phrases that you often use not to go bankrupt in the process, essentially, which is reasonable efforts, which shifts the burden a little bit between the customer and the vendor, and so on. You also need to define key things like what does a system down mean for you, for your customer, and so on. I mean, there may be obvious things like the server not responding and so on, major functionality not working, significant amount of users that can't log in, and so on and so forth. Somebody, I mean, after this webinar, you'll get a white paper on, which includes an SLA checklist, which kind of guides you through what does the agreement cover, what are the objectives, what are the parties included in it, what people are responsible for the agreement, what's the coverage period, and so on and so forth. I'm not going to bore you with all the minor details, but that white paper would actually talk you through most of the things you need to think about when you construct an SLA. When you then look at the KPIs, you see in front of you a range of different KPIs you could be looking at. I mean, customer satisfaction, a score or a rating of, what are the averages for the SLA, what number of SLAs are you renegotiating because they don't work, which number needs changes to it, and so on and so forth. And then towards the bottom, you have the very common ones, which is the SLA issues logged, and you have the breaches and the ones that are threatening to breach shortly. And that was kind of the bit on where we look at the theoretical part of service level agreements. And I'm going to come back to questions after Yuxing has done his part on service-wise. So I'm now going to switch over to Yuxing. You there, Yuxing?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Rick, for the introduction part. So let me close this first. So I'm going to demo how you actually use service level agreement feature in TechXL service-wise. So in this particular demo system, we're looking at a service desk project, which is incident management project, which is managed by an internal IT team. So the IT team will serve their internal employees. Whoever submits a incident, ticket, or request will be put in from the employee web portal, and the internal IT team will processing those tickets, requests, and hopefully within the defined time frame, they could provide a solution for those requests and tickets. So here we're looking at a very simple workflow for this internal IT team to process the tickets and requests. And eventually, all the workflow will go back to this resolved state. And today, my demo is basically divided into 3 parts. And in the first part, I will go through some of the basic configurations to basically show you how to enable a service level agreement feature, and you can quickly implement this feature into your projects. And in the second part, we will look at some of the reports associated with SLA. And lastly, I will dive into some of the more advanced topics. So basically, how do we enable some automations to set some of the times for tickets? Also, when a service agreement is breached, how do we actually escalate to maybe a higher management team or some other teams? So let's start with some of the basic configurations. The most important thing here is, so we're looking at a admin console of ServiceWise. So if you go to any work project, there will be a service agreement folder. And under the general setting, the important part here is to enable service agreement support. And next important thing is you want to define a work schedule or work hours for your IT support team. So for example, I have a 2 work schedule, support schedule defined here. So the first one is very common to any company. You define a 5-day, 5 working days a week. So basically from 9 to 6, and there's a 1-hour lunch break. And you can also add a few holidays into this work schedule. So any time outside of these defined work hours will not be used to count for the service level agreements. And the third part of this configuration is to configure a few service agreements. So here, in this particular setup, we have 5 levels of service agreements, so high impact incidents. I want to grab your attention to the lower section of this page. So here you can see, first I select a support schedule I showed you on the previous page. So this particular service agreement will use this support schedule. And underneath here, we have a response hour and resolve hour. So response time, response hour means whenever a ticket or request is submitted, the IT team needs to respond to your employee within 15 minutes. So that's a promised time the entire team needs to keep. If we somehow go past this time, it means we basically didn't keep the promise and we somehow breached the agreement. So resolve time means you need to provide a final solution for this incoming ticket or request. So in this case, for the high impact incidents, it needs to be provided within 4 hours. So look at some other service agreements. You can see we have different promised time for response and resolve. So if we go lower impact incidents, we have a longer response time and resolve times. So later on, we can display a report based on these promised times and see whether we actually keep the promises or we basically breach the time frame we promised. So we can even calculate a percentage of misses based on these times. So let's go back to this high impact incidents. Here you can see 2 times we do support additional time called restore time. So that's a optional. You can enable it, go to this general setting by clicking this field. So what does it mean? It actually means the time when you provide a temporary solution for your end user, so they're able to continue to work on something without interruption. However, you do need to provide a eventual resolution for your end user to resolve this issue. So the restore time is in between this response and resolve time. So for example, if I enable it, I will probably put either 1 hour or 2 hours here. So it is between response time and resolve time. So another thing we do support is we support multiple set of such times. For example, this high impact incident, we could potentially have 2 different set of response time. So here I have group A, which has a response time of 1 hour and resolve time of 12 hours. Then in the group B, you have shorter time frames promised for this service agreement. All these different response times can be automatically applied based on some predefined conditions. So here are a few number of the fields from your ticket. So based on the value of category detail, for example, this group B, you can see when we select installation for this category detail, we're going to apply this 6-hour resolve time and 1-hour response time promise. So let's look at a example of how actually the service level agreement, these times are displayed for a particular ticket. For example, let's look at maybe the first tickets here. So I'm logged in as Terry Johnson at the team portal. So I'm looking at all incoming tickets for my employees. So let's look at this 1445. So normally, all these service level agreement information are displayed on the ticket status page. So if we look at the lower section of this page, okay? So let me explain some of the meanings of these fields. So first of all, there are two planned times, planned dates. The first one is planned start date, and the second one is planned finish date. So these are the dates you plan to start working on this ticket, and the planned end date means by that time you may have a resolution. So these are planned times. You can always, after you submit the ticket, you can always manually modify these dates. But you can also make it automatically assigned. I will show you how to do that in the third part of this demo. So the next thing, support plan, is basically the service level agreement templates we created in admin. So here we have 5. So you can, for example, in this case, 1445 has already used high impact incident agreement. You can always manually change this to a different agreement. So the time underneath in this SLA detail will be recalculated based on your new agreement. So next, there are 3 fields: SLA start time, response time, and the resolve time. So these 3 times are actual times. So SLA start time is the time when you start to count your time elapsed for this service level agreement. So if I set this now, all these times should be recalculated because I reset this SLA start time to now instead of sometime yesterday. So this response time is the actual time when your team responds or reply back to your end user. So that team member may have been working on certain items and noticed that there will be a solution or something. This support team member can either call or send an email to your employee. Then he then can manually set this time to be the time when he did the email sending or phone calling. Then the resolve time is the actual time when you have a final resolution. At that time, you need to set this time. So basically, with all these basic configurations, you can implement some basic functionalities of service level agreement for each of your tickets. So you can track whether you have finished or provided a solution within the time frame, or you have passed the time frame. But you probably noticed that most of the fields here can be manually set, which is probably not good, or a big overhead for your support teams. So we will talk a little more about how to do some automations in the third part of this demo. So let me, before I dive into the reports, so I intentionally customize my incident list view, so I have a few times fields displayed on this list. You can see particular particularly for this total remaining response time, you can see you have basically spent 59 minutes on this ticket. Then you are still within the the promised time frame of response time. So it is still displayed in blue color. And for those which pass the promised time frame, they are displayed in red color. Also put a minus sign, meaning that you are 22 days over the promised response time frame. And also you can see we have a time remaining for the result time. So let me show you 3 reports we provided for you to basically see how the team performs for your service level agreement. So the first report is called Incident List with SLA Times. So this is basically a list of incidents with some special metrics or fields related to service level agreements. So you can see here I put in some fields. So for example, it gives you the time difference of, so in red color, that means you have passed the promised time frame by 10 days and 2 hours. The result time is passed by 11 days. And you can see also some blue color times. That means you actually finish this within 1 hour, which is also within the promised response time frame. Then you can customize your report and add in more metrics to, for example, response time length, those kind of metrics if you want to track those informations for all the tickets. So the second report is basically a performance report for your team. So here the first column shows all current team members in your IT team. And second columns show the number of tickets that this team member has been working on. Then in the next 2 bigger columns, it shows the average time spent in, for example, in responding this ticket, and total number of missed. So in this example, 10 tickets are actually the team member provides the response. 10 out of 17 are actually out of the promised response time frame, and average percentage of misses are 58%. Then at the last row, you can see we have a average on all the team members. So it is, for example, the response time misses are 52%, and similarly, there's a percentage misses for resolve time, 79%. So the last report is actually looks very complicated, but requires some explanation. So this is basically a performance report based on your service level agreement templates. So you can see I have 5 service level agreement templates. The one I used before was a high impact incident. So let's look at this one. So here, as I mentioned, there are 2 types of response times. Let's look at maybe group A response time. There are 2 big columns. The first one is response time. The second one is for result time. And within the response time column, you have 2 columns. One is for the number of tickets you actually responded within the service level agreement timeframe. And one column is for those who are actually responded outside of the agreement. You can see 14 tickets are responded within the promised time frame, and 8 are actually out of the promised time frame. So if you look closely, you can see how, based on each service level agreement template, how the entire team performed on the all the incoming tickets. You can specify date range, so you can zoom in into a particular time period. You can also specify a few query strings based on tickets information. So you can do a lot of customizations. So that's the second part of my demo. And lastly, I will dive into some more advanced topics. So we are able to, most importantly, how to enable automation. So first thing I want to show you is so here is, if I go to general settings, you can see we have auto apply feature. So basically when someone submits a ticket, then based on the information on that ticket, a predefined service level agreement plan can be automatically applied to that ticket. So how do we do that? So let's take a look at this high impact incident. So the settings are under auto apply tab. So here you can define a condition. So this condition are based on information on that ticket. So you can either select a single field, for example, category detail field from that ticket, or select a more complicated condition as what I'm doing now here for this high impact incident. So if we look at how I define this condition, this is based on 2 fields on that ticket. So the first one is impact. So this means when I have a high impact and the request type is equal to service request, I will automatically apply this high impact incident agreement. So this is, you can define very complicated conditions based on all these tickets information, or even employee information, or based on company hierarchy. But in my case, high impact was defined as impact equal to high, and the request type is equal to service request. So whenever these 2 are matched, I will automatically apply this condition. So the second automation I want to show you is under incident view. There's something called response result time automation. So sometimes maybe we can call it more simpler. I can call it a state automation. So what does it mean is basically your actual response and result time are set based on your ticket state. For example, in my workflow, I specify when your ticket is transitioned to level 1 support, you automatically set your SLA start time. So we start count to your time frame. Then there's no changes for your response time. There's no resolution at that state. So we can also have another set SLA start time at the service procedure state. Then if you look at here, when the ticket is resolved, closed, or when the ticket is resolved, notify employee. When the tickets are at these two states, I would like to set this ticket is resolved. So just by process your ticket going from one state to another, your response time and the result time can be automatically set. I enable a couple of features here, so I haven't enabled the event status, so you can do that also. So basically, the setting of these times can be triggered by event state changes. Another thing I want to show you is we can specify some of the states. For example, in this case, the response time will not be counting for resolved, closed, and resolved notified employee. Only these 5 states will be available, will be used for counting to your promised time frame. You can do the same thing for your result time. Then the next thing I would like to do a little bit just to make some more convenient. So this is a status page layout we define in admin. So here on the lower section, we have all these fields related to service level agreement. So normally, when a plan start date started, I would normally use the ticket creation time instead of asking our support team to manually set a time. So here, by check this enable default value to 00, that means this field will be automatically set at the same time as the ticket submission time. And also, I want to make this field read-only, so no one can actually edit it after the ticket is submitted. So for the plan finish date, I will probably do the similar thing. I don't want anyone to actually manually change it. I make it read-only. But in this case, I would like to link with service level agreement resolve time. So what does it mean is actually when you apply a service level agreement, the promised time will be calculated and added to your ticket submission time, and that value will be assigned automatically to this plan finish date. Then because I made it read-only, so nobody can actually change it later on. So for the support plan, I think you can also do that if we can change it to read-only if you want to automatically apply instead of asking your support team to change it manually. For SLA time, you can do similar things, but I will leave them all editable currently. But when we look at this response time, we have another option here. So what does it mean is actually whenever this incoming tickets submitted by your employee register into the system, your team member can always reply to your end user using this web conversation. So if I check this, when you reply through your web conversation queue, then you automatically set your response time. So I can also make this read-only instead of editable all the time. Because I enabled some automation, state automation, so you can basically make this field read-only. Remember that when in my workflow, if the ticket is in resolved closed state or resolved notified employee state, this field will be automatically set. So let me probably show you one example. Let me push this first. So show you one example how actually this automation are used. So first of all, I want to submit a new ticket for Anna Hardway. So one thing I want to make sure, because I want to apply the high impact incident agreement. So one thing I want to make sure is to select the request type equal to service request. Because I'm using a predefined template, so a lot of the fields are already populated. So if I'm looking at some of the values here, so the impact is indeed high, and category details are installation. So if I submit this ticket, I'm expecting that the high impact incident agreement will be automatically applied, and also the group B of response time will be used. So let's look at some of the information here. So here you can see high impact incident is automatically applied. And you can see several fields here, although they are read-only, but already set. So if you look at this plan finish date, it's exactly the same time as this promised resolve time. So this is why I, in admin, check that checkbox for plan finish date to link with resolved time. So here, because I enabled web conversation, I can just go ahead and type in some information back to the employee. So I will help you. So by doing that, if I go back to the status page, you can see this response time is also set. Then in the lower section here, you can see the progress of your ticket comparing with your promised time. So currently all the times are still blue. That means you are within the promised time frame. If it is displayed in orange or red color, it will well pass your promised time frame. So at certain state, you, for example, resolved, then I'm expecting that resolve time will also be set. You can see here. So the third part of my demo is basically help you to understand how to enable some of the automation. You can basically configure all these fields to be read-only, but these times can be set automatically when you are progressing your ticket from state to state. So in that case, you avoid a lot of overhead for your support team members, and these numbers can be set. And later on, when you look at the reports, you can have all tickets will have these values populated. Then you can measure the performance of your team members. Another thing I want to want your attention is this red color. So that means response time will not be counted at current stage because I configured at current stage the accounting of response time will be paused. Lastly, very quickly, a very useful feature for a lot of the customers is called escalation. So what if your team cannot be cannot provide any solution before the resolved time frame? So we do have a rule that you can create. For example, some rule here. There are two triggers you can create based on your planned start date and planned finish date. Recall that we linked your planned finish date with your actual promised resolve time. So you can basically set up a escalation rule. So when your planned finish date is passed by 3 hours, then you want to send out escalation emails and maybe reassign this ticket to a different person or different team or even managers so they can pay attention to try to resolve this issue within another time frame. So that's all the demoing I do today. So let's go ahead and start. If you have any questions, please start typing. And I think I transfer my control to Renee.
Hi, Yuxing. Thank you. I want to thank everyone for attending today. We want to be mindful of your time and wrap up very quickly. There was just a couple of slides. We do have a couple questions, and that I think these are more addressed to Rick at the moment. First of all, Rick, let's just clarify a little housekeeping. Will the slides be available after this webinar today?
They will be, and there will also be a white paper that outlines all of these. And that kind of takes care of one other question you have in there, is if we have a definitive or a list of these things that you should look for, and that's in the white paper.
Right, so all attendees will receive a link to today's recording as well as the white paper and today's slides. And if you have further questions, feel free to reach out to Rick or Yuxing directly. There was one last question, Rick, about the starting point for an SLA as a service catalog. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, you can look at it as a starting point with a service catalog or a service portfolio, which is essentially a service catalog is essentially a list of all your services that your help desk provide, and that is, of course, a starting point when you define your services. But I think it's important that outside of that, you define your service levels separately so they make sense to the business, and you think through those bits, and you look at your current situation and where you and the business are going with that. And all of those things are in the white paper, and if you have any more questions around that, feel free to send me an email, and we'll take it from there.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Rick, and thank you very much, Yuxing. And
thank you, everyone.
Thank you for everyone attending, and have a wonderful day. Thank you.